Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Rabbi zidni ilma. We were studying Unit 2, Living Things and Their Classification, and today we are going to start Lesson 2, and we'll try to cover the first part of Lesson 2, Classification of Living Things. Now, scientists study different living things. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created so many things, subhanallah, in this world that it becomes really difficult for scientists to study them all. So how can we study such a large number of living things that are different from each other? Studying each living thing separately would take a lot of time. So what is the solution? Scientists study living things by forming their groups. They look for similarities and differences among living things. Then they form groups of living things that have similar properties, and this makes their task easy. So when the living things are grouped together and they all have similar qualities, so studying one or two would mean that you have studied the whole group. So that makes it easy for the scientists to study Allah's creations. Now, how is this classification done? The process of grouping things together is called classification. Classification is a way by which all living things that share similarities are placed into different groups. So, living things that have similar qualities go in one group, and living things that have different qualities go in the other group. For example, the animals that live in water can form one group, and the animals that live on land can form another group. Sarah read that scientists believe there are over 10 million different kinds of living things on Earth. 10 million is a really big number. In order to make their study easier, scientists classify living things into groups based on how they are similar and how they are different. Let's study some of the groups. There are many ways in which living things can be classified. The same living things can be grouped in many different ways. Some of these ways are very simple, others are more complicated, and you will study them in higher classes. Scientists classify all living things into 5 big groups. Now, what are those 5 big groups? The animals fall in one group, plants is the second group, fungi is the third group, bacteria, and then protists. So these are different kinds of kingdoms that scientists have put Allah's creations in. These 5 big groups are called kingdoms. Out of these 5 kingdoms, 2 kingdoms are living things are the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. Fungi, bacteria, and protists are kept separate. So plants and animals, we know they are living things and we can study about them. All plants can make their own food inside their bodies. Animals are different from them because they cannot make their own food. They need to eat different types of food. So animals eat different types of food, whereas plants make their own food, and that is why they are different from animals. So plants are in a different group and animals are in a different group. And here you can see one classification based on their eating habits. Herbivores are all the animals that eat plants. Carnivores are all the animals that eat other animals. Omnivores are those animals that eat plants as well as animals. So they can eat herbs, that is plants, and they can also eat the meat of other animals. So they are called omnivores. And you can see that human beings are also classified as omnivores. So one simple classification of living things is based on whether they live in water or on land. So this is another way that we can classify them. Living things that live on land are called terrestrial, while those living in water are known as aquatic. So these are two names given to them. Birds spend most of their time in the air, so they are called aerial. So they stay in air. The word terrestrial comes from the word terra in Latin. Latin is a language which means earth. Terrestrial means on or related to earth. Whereas the word aqua has been taken from Latin as well, it means water. So aquatic means related to water. So aquatic animals are those animals that live in water, and terrestrial animals are those animals that live on earth, that is land. Some animals live on trees. They are called arboreal. So arboreal animals are those animals that live on trees. And two examples are there on this slide, the koala and the squirrel. Some animals can live both in water and on land. They are called amphibians. So they can live on land as well as in water. Their name is amphibians, and you can see the examples. On page 20, you will be able to see a tree chart like this: animals, terrestrial animals and aquatic animals, and there are some pictures given beside it. The pictures of earthworm, water lily, lizard, sea turtle, seahorse, and rose plant. And you have to classify these animals into two groups, that is terrestrial and aquatic animals. Pause the video here and do this exercise. Have you ever seen this in your garden or anywhere in a park somewhere? Have you seen it? These things are called mushrooms. They are neither plants nor animals. They belong to another kingdom of living things called the fungi kingdom. And some of them can be poisonous. You can see real mushrooms growing in gardens. Beware, some of them may be poisonous, and the poisonous ones are called toadstools. Let's see how animals are classified. Another simple classification of animals is based on the type of food they eat, and I informed you about it previously as well. You have already studied that plant eaters are called herbivores. Animal eaters are called carnivores, while those who eat both are called omnivores. Classify the following animals in the given tree chart. And in the tree chart, you have animals and subcategories herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. And this classification is based on their habits of eating. So it is given on page 21, and I would want you to quickly do that exercise. You can pause the video here and complete the exercise. Also, guess what is it? I have a shell. I do not have a backbone. And you have to write the name of the animal. Do these two exercises and then continue the video. The animal kingdom can also be divided into two groups on the basis of backbones. Animals that have backbones are grouped together, and those that do not have backbones are put into a different group. So the animals who have backbone are called vertebrates, and those that do not have backbones are called invertebrates. And you can see the examples. These animals do not have backbones, whereas all these animals have backbones. Do you have a backbone? Cockroaches, jellyfish, snails, and starfish do not have a backbone. Frogs, lizards, birds, lions, giraffes, etc. all have backbones. Now here are 3 questions for you to answer. How many kingdoms of living things have been made by scientists? What is similar among all animals? List some of the bases on which animals are put into groups. So animals can be divided into different groups on the basis of different characteristics. So you have to write those characteristics, that how can we divide animals into different groups and what characteristics can be used. That's all for today. Jazakallahu khairan. See you with the next video soon. Allah Hafiz.